Hey guys, Ryan here, and Joel the man, our videographer who's a beast, here to talk to you for the daily drive. So we're literally on our way back to the office after doing a series of blogs down by the Yarra River, which was amazing. It was really beautiful. It's an amazing day today. And what we want to talk to you guys about today is the idea of what it actually takes to be successful on a bigger scale. What it takes to, not just in business, but mainly in business. But for example, I'm going to be talking about business. I'm going to be talking about standing out. But I'll give you some examples of how it applies to other areas of your life as well. So what we've been doing recently, last week we did this a lot, is reaching out to people in a really creative, genuine way that separates your message from the noise. People that are used to getting reached out to all the time. And this video is not about that, but it's a great example of creativity. So what we pretty much have been doing is we're launching a podcast. So we want to obviously launch the podcast with some great big names on there. We've got Lewis Howe, who's interviewed Tony Robbins a few times, that responded, and I'm going to be doing a podcast interview with him, which is awesome. We've got John Lee Dumas, who is a podcaster himself, and he's pretty much got the most popular podcast in the world under the entrepreneurship niche, with over 1 million views, not views because it's audio, over 1 million listeners every single month, which is great. He's an awesome guy. We've got those guys locked in, and we've got a bunch of others that we're in communication with at the moment to try to lock them in as well. Some really amazing people. But how do you go that extra edge? How do you separate yourself? How do you put you above the average, the normal? The way is standing out. You have to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do in order to get the result that you want to get. And so obviously a lot of that comes down to courage, and a lot of it comes down to just literally thinking outside the box. If you're going to do a blog post, maybe instead of just doing a face-to-camera basic blog post, you come up with a really creative metaphor, and you use that metaphor to set the visual settings of the video. So you might be talking about flow and energy, and then you go and do a video in front of the river. Just that extra little thing to separate you. And another thing that we did is we're about to go to Vegas with our clients, which is really exciting. We're less than a week away from leaving, which is crazy. And we're going to be over in Vegas for maybe a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Then we're going to be going to LA for a week, even more potentially, and then over to Florida, hopefully, based on this creative email that we sent out to can't say who the person yet is because it's not 100% confirmed. It's about, I reckon, 65% confirmed, but hopefully it pulls through, where I might maybe doing a 500 person event with a thought leader who's got over 2 million YouTube subscribers, which is way more than us. We've got less than 1,000 YouTube subscribers, which is a great start, but it's nowhere near the same level. So to be able to get that, you obviously have to stand out. You've got to be creative. So I want to ask you, in your business, what could you do to stand out more? How could you do things differently? I remember being in the University of Western Australia, where I studied entrepreneurship very briefly for a 6-month period, and studied hard. Wasn't for me at all. Wasn't very entrepreneurial. And I did this interview competition because my friend ran this club that the goal of the club was to connect university students that were serious about getting a great job after they left with corporate executives and people representing really great companies. So kind of connecting the dots between awesome companies and awesome students, which was a cool club. And they had this interview night, and it was an interview competition. So you went in and there was a prize, and there was all these big industry reps from all these massive companies there. And she said, come along, and said, just come along, have some fun. And I was obviously in my first 6 months of uni, and they were all people that were about to graduate, trying to practice to get their interviews set and hone us in their interview skills. And I pretty much went into the interviews. I thought it was a really fun thing. I was a little bit nervous, but essentially my goal for the interviews was to be different, to be creative. And so what I did was I went into every interview just starting out with a question. I said, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question before we start? And of course they said, yeah, of course not. So I asked them if they could have their dream potential candidate for this job, what would be the exact skill set and personality type that you'd be after? What sort of mindset, what sort of person would you be looking for? And they told me exactly what they wanted. And then every question they asked, I just framed towards exactly what they wanted. And I went through, had an absolute blast. And then when we got to the end, I ended up winning the whole competition, which was crazy. I won a big money prize, and you know, got to have interviews at these companies, and I didn't want a job, but it was really cool. But the only reason that happened was because I stood out. You know, nothing to do with my skill set, nothing to do with my university degree or, you know, education or experience or anything. Literally just standing out. And so if you can stand out in whatever you're doing, like I said, it's not just business, it's your career. If you want to go meet an amazing woman, you're a guy or you're a girl wanting to stand out for a guy, you know, be creative. You know, do things that are different, stand out, be someone that is doing it a cut above the rest, and you'll get great success. So I want you guys thinking about how you can do this and what you've already got going on, and just amplify the standards of how you're doing those activities in your business, starting out in other areas if you want to. So that's pretty much it for the Daily Drive. We're about to pull up to the office. You guys have an amazing day. Much love, and just remember, comment below if you've got any questions that want answered. I'm going to start to answer some questions every time I do a Daily Drive based on what you guys throw in. So it doesn't matter what it is, chuck it out and I'll answer it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.